What is going on? Woodward Bets back in the house right here on the Woodward Sports Network. Wednesday here, talking everything in the sports world. Beer and Scott back in the house. Scott, coming to you from the studio. Scott, how we doing, my man? We're going to talk more about the studio here in a minute, but how are you?
Man, exciting. It's really fun to hear and stuff, a studio going on. So, man, there's all kinds of toys, all kinds of fun going on. So the Woodward Bets team had to bring in a few toys today. We bought a couple unwrapped toys, unused toys for the kids over there at Children's Hospital. So excited to do that. Always a good thing here. Anytime you can do something for the kids around Christmas time, it's a good thing. So got to drop off a few things today, and hopefully, the lucky young fellow who gets that little Razor scooter I have has some fun on it and don't bust his ass. But always fun to be able to help the kids.
Absolutely. So we've been talking about this all week. We're going to continue to talk about it. We want you guys to get involved here. As you can see there on the screen, Stuff a Studio going on all week long. Just an amazing cause here. All these toys that are donated. So if you want to get involved, you want to donate a toy, you want to get involved here with the Bets team, with the Woodward Sports team, all you have to do, drop a toy off at the studio, or you can donate online as well. Easy to do that at woodwardsports.com. But all of these toys, donations are going to go to these kids at Mott Children's Hospital. So, again, love to be a part of this. Let's continue to stuff that studio. Scott, give us a live update. You're there today. It's the middle of the week. We still got a couple days to collect toys. How stuffed is that studio looking so far?
Oh, it's getting there. It could be a little bit stuffier. Obviously, it's getting to be stuffed pretty well. We'll get a picture up here in a minute, but yeah, exciting stuff to be a part of, and yeah, lots of toys in there. I think me and Spencer, after we're done here, we're gonna have to go in there and try them out. We're gonna have to be the tester. I think that's what our plan is.
It's a great job. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to make sure all these toys are working and in good order. So, guys, we're asking for your help on this. So if you enjoy the show, you enjoy the picks, you enjoy anything we do, even if you don't enjoy us, come by and drop off a toy as a way to just get involved with this. I mean, there's no wrong toy. Any toy will do. Just got to be new in the box. Don't be bringing your old toys in from home. So, but get involved. It's just such an amazing cause, and we're happy to be a part of it. So, plan for today, Scott. It's Wednesday. It always means we're going to go in depth on the NFL schedule. We're going to have to avoid some landmines here. COVID wreaking havoc across the sports world. We talked a little bit about it yesterday in the NBA. NFL, we're seeing the news hits seemingly every minute or two with more and more tests coming back positive. So we'll give our outlook, but just know this is likely going to change, and there's nothing wrong with taking an initial look at the slate. And we'll come back every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And like I always say, tie a bow on things and give you our final thoughts. But we'll give you some initial thoughts in the NFL. We got NBA on the docket here as well, so we'll give you some thoughts there. And as we always do, we'll end the show with our best bet segment. So one other thing, Friday, we got our Beers with Beer segment. If you haven't caught this yet, you're a craft beer fan, you're going to want to tune in here. I love craft beer. I pretty much have drinking everything out there by now. Scott's more of a Modelo Corona type drinker, so we're trying to expand his horizons, see how he likes it, which gives a review to any of you out there who haven't really jumped into craft beer yet. So far, we've highlighted 2 local breweries and beers. We're going to continue to spotlight Michigan breweries and beers. We started with Old Nation's M43. Last week was Bell's Two Hearted. This week, you're going to have to tune in on Friday night at 6 o'clock to see what our beer and brewery of the week is. But if you're a fan, craft beer out there, you work for a brewer, please reach out to us. Give us some suggestions on what you guys want to see Scott try. So I think we're 1-1, Scott. I think you enjoyed the M43. I think the Bell's Two Hearted, maybe a little too bitter for your taste.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. As I said, if I had to drink it, I would be more than happy. But if there was a few other beers in there, it may not get my attention first. But I can't complain. But that M43 is actually pretty good. I actually had a couple of those on Sunday when I was watching football. I think I actually picture of that. I was watching some football, enjoying that M43. But Chris, we got a little bit of a wrinkle in our mix this week. Miami, so I don't know how much of the local beer I'm going to be able to find, but we'll get something. Be sure we have something because I'm sure there's going to be quite a few beers flowing the whole weekend with me down there in that DraftKings Fantasy Football World Final going on.
Well, I think there's Michigan beers that you'll be able to find down there, so I'll just have to try to find one. Or there is a Florida brewery I'm very fond of that is now distributing in Michigan, so we'll make a decision on that. But that's every Friday we do that segment. Again, Scott will be down in Miami this weekend, taking in the festivities of the DraftKings Live Finals. Got some buddies playing in that, so we hope to get some live on the boots type reports from down there, and I'm sure we'll get some good coverage from you guys. So, Scott, let's go to our KMA, and this kind of ties in with what's that?
I was going to say, sorry, we're going to have some drunk Stewie there, buddy. We'll get some drunk Stewie coming up.
All right, perfect. So let's talk. Let's tie this together. COVID, KMA. I think we all can tell COVID to KMA by now. I'm sure it's wreaked havoc on our homes in one way or the other. Doing so on the sports world here as well. So I don't know if we get any games canceled in the NFL, but there's certain teams that are just getting hammered by this right now. So I believe there's 6, 7, 8 teams potentially are almost on a lockdown right now. So it's going to be a very fluid situation, Scott. So we'll see if there's cancellations. But I know KMA is always one of your favorite segments of the week. So what are you wanting to sound off on here this week in the KMA segment?
Yeah, the KMA COVID rules for all the sports. I mean, that's got me. It's just aggravating. It just it seems to be outdated, antiquated at this time. You got all these positive tests here in the NFL. And then the funny part is, Chris, after you test positive, for 90 days after, they don't test you. So to me, that seems to be a little bit odd here. A few weeks before the playoffs, we're getting as many COVID issues that we had. I mean, almost, Chris, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. You say, think about the conspiracies. But, man, Chris, if you're about to make the playoffs, wouldn't it be in your benefit to say your guys have COVID a couple weeks before? Then you don't have to deal with any of that testing during the whole playoffs. So I'm not saying that's the case, but it does seem pretty odd that all of a sudden we got 70-some guys or something like that, 60-some guys that have COVID all of a sudden in the NFL. OBJ included, who he scored a touchdown the night before, but couldn't pass a COVID testing. So it's just odd times we live in, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's an interesting theory, no doubt, and get it behind you and move on towards the playoffs. But yeah, we'll see what happens here as we get closer to Sunday. Hopefully we don't lose any games. I know a lot of you guys out there are in your season-long playoffs, and you're going to have to dodge some bullets here and really make sure you're prepared. So take a look at your bench and stack up, running backs. Make sure you have extra. I don't even hate, Scott, having extra kickers and defenses at this point, where your kicker gets knocked out. Leagues that still have kickers will say I'm all about abolishing kickers, but your kicker gets knocked out. That can be the difference, and we don't want to hate to see that cost you advancing in your season-long playoffs. So just something to think about. Obviously, that's easier in a deeper bench league, but something to look at for sure. So we'll come back to the NFL here. We'll look at some of the most acquired free agents and the most dropped. We'll get to that. I want to do a quick hit here, Scott, on the NBA for tonight. Again, very fluid situation. I know the slate locks here in about 45 minutes, but things change very, very rapidly. So let's go over the injuries here real quick on things we know. CJ McCollum, once again, out tonight for Portland. John Morant will remain out for Memphis. No LaMelo Ball for Charlotte. Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler going to miss again for Miami. And no Luka for Dallas. So a big blow there for the Mavericks. We also know Giannis will miss this game for Milwaukee. So big bump to Holiday, Middleton if those guys are playing. No Kevin Porter Jr. for Houston. No Lou Dort for Oklahoma City. We're waiting on news on guys like Christian Wood, Paul George, Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis. So there's a long, lengthy list of injuries here tonight in the NBA. So, Scott, we'll do our best here to give some NBA picks. Things may change again. Be up to the minute on your news and keeping an eye on things. But who are you looking at tonight in the NBA? I think we got to start with those Milwaukee Bucks. If Middleton's in there, Drew Holiday, they get such a big bump when Giannis is not playing.
Yeah, I mean, we got to watch out for Middleton as well. So yeah, if Holiday, I mean, he's definitely going to get all kinds of usage there. I do like him. And then the other one we're going to have to worry about too. I mean, over here in Portland, McCollum and Cody Zeller are going to be out. So Lillard, I mean, he had 47 minutes last night in that overtime game. Nurkic had 39 minutes. So, there's a lot of minutes to be going around there. I think that is important for us to keep our eye on. And we saw last night, Chris, with the Nets. Here the Nets had all these injuries and they were playing on a limited bench. All of a sudden, we've seen guys that aren't really relevant, throughout the season so far, putting up all kinds of crazy points last night. You had Brown and a couple of these other guys I hadn't even heard of. Everybody, they were pretty chalky too, but they all had pretty good nights last night. I mean, a lot of, different things like Charlotte's getting to be a little bit more healthy. I think we're going to have to pull back on them. A lot of those guys are priced up, but I do think that Milwaukee news is big. So we're going to get into that and see about Middleton, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think Miami, another good place to look. We mentioned Adebayo, Butler. They're also going to be without Tyler Hero. So, I mean, that's a lot of usage to go around. So Kyle Lowry stands out on the high end. You got a guy like Max Struss as a cheap value play. I don't mind going back to Jalen Brunson tonight. Kind of disappointed the other night. Was very popular and highly owned. That game got out of hand very, very quickly against Charlotte. So he was not needed, we'll say. So I don't mind going back to the well on him. Jayshawn Tate been fantastic for Houston with Kevin Porter Jr. out. They're also missing Jalen Green, so they certainly need offense. Again, value plays in PJ Tucker, Dwayne Dedman for Miami. So those are some quick thoughts, but again, be paying attention right up until that slate locks here coming up at 7:05. So we'll have some best bets in the NBA to end the show here tonight. But Scott, let's go back to football now. Let's talk about some of the stuff we saw on the waiver wire last night, some names to pay attention to. Some waivers still run tonight. So no surprise leading the way here, Rashad Penny, the most picked up player. I was surprised he wasn't available in a lot of my leagues. A lot of people got out ahead of it. I have him in a couple leagues as well. We always talk about stashing those running backs and get out ahead of some of these injuries and inefficiencies. We've seen Alex Collins basically do nothing in that role. So if you grab Rashad Penny a week or two ago, kudos to you. KJ Osborne, number 2 to nobody's surprise. Adam Thielen still questionable this week. Alan Lazard, another interesting name. No Randall Cobb. Really saw him highly involved in that game last week. Gabriel Davis going to get a bump here with no Manny Sanders this week. Taysom Hill at the quarterback position. Kind of surprised he's still out there. 2 productive games in a row now. I think he's a guy that can certainly carry you to some fantasy championships. Devontae Parker has been back here for a couple weeks now with Miami. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Scott may be the last man standing here in Cleveland. We'll see what that situation looks like. Baker Mayfield also has COVID, so they may not even have their quarterback this week. Monra St. Brown of the Lions starting to play some good ball. A.J. Green looked good the other night. And Dearness Johnson with the news of Kareem Hunt going to miss a few weeks. So pretty wealth of options here on this list this week. So I didn't find it as fruitful in a lot of my leagues as this list indicates, but hopefully everybody out there was able to get what they need heading into the playoffs here, Scott. Anything surprise you on this list? What'd you see in your waivers last night?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised by Taysom, as you mentioned. Rashad Penny's another guy I think that pretty high should be targeting it, but Parker's interesting this week, maybe as a 1 week kind of filler. We know that they're getting the shot, so I think that is interesting there. Dearness Johnson too. I mean, we already saw him perform pretty well. We know Cleveland's going to want to run the ball as much as possible. So even if they do have both Chubb and Johnson this week, I think, Johnson's probably going to get maybe 10, maybe 12 carries, I would assume, especially if Hunt's out. And it'd be really interesting to see, too, especially if they do not have Baker. I would assume they're just going to lean on that run game. So Dearness Johnson may be a sneaky guy you might be able to pick up and throw in your lineups this week. But, yeah, I mean, I think Ross St. Brown, too, for the Lions is interesting, especially if they continue to have these issues at running back. I mean, last week, I had a feeling before that game that Goff's going to drop back 40 sometimes and throw the ball. That was just going to be what their offense was going to be about without the running backs. And I think that may be the case again this week here. We know they're probably going to be losing all game to Arizona. So I don't mind any of these cheaper Lion pass catchers in even a DFS format or a season-long format. I mean, we saw St. Brown already get 10-plus targets a couple times here. So I think that's sneaky too. And like you mentioned, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he is going to be the last man standing. So definitely interesting there. I mean, those carries and touches got to go somewhere. So definitely something to keep our eye on as the week progresses to see who's going to be in and who's going to be out. If you're vaccinated, you got to sit out 10 days. Unvaccinated, you got to sit out 10 days. If you're vaccinated, you just got to have 2 tests in a row that are negative. So we'll see how that all transpires as the week goes through.
Yeah, big news week here for sure. One more name we didn't talk. I don't think we brought up yesterday. Royce Freeman, a guy you can certainly look at. Now I know it's Houston. It's tough to really get behind that backfield, but we saw him kind of take the reins there with that backfield. And now Rex Burkhead officially announced out for this week. So we kind of laughed at this game yesterday, Scott. We're going to talk about it here coming up in our breakdown of all the games, about the worst game you could potentially drum up here with Houston and Jacksonville. But I think Royce Freeman, another one of those running backs that you can look to. I added him in quite a few leagues. Not sure if I'll need to start him. Hopefully I don't have to start him, but just getting out ahead of things, I think he makes for a decent play in DFS this week at a cheaper price point as well. So I want to add him here to our list. Let's take a look at the most released. This is usually injury driven. Not a ton of surprises here, but we'll walk through them. Dontrell Hilliard, we saw Deonta Foreman be the main back there for the Titans. So maybe a little bit premature, Scott. We always talk about kind of hanging on to these running backs unless you really need to let them go. So a little surprised he's on this list here. But Elijah Moore, going to miss a couple weeks, placed on IR. Alex Collins, we talked about, just has not gotten the job done there. A couple of Niners backs here, Jeff Wilson, JaMychal Hasty. Wilson, a little surprising. I know he hasn't been great with his 2 shots being the starting running back. And it sounds like Elijah Mitchell headed towards a return. But Wilson, a guy I'd probably hang on to. Jamar Jefferson, that Detroit backfield, we got some surprises there with Reynolds being the lead back, Matt Breida in Buffalo, let go Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Perennially added, dropped. It's just as a Packer fan, I get it. This guy's about as frustrating as it gets. Foster Moreau did literally nothing with his 2 weeks without Darren Waller, who sounds like he's heading towards a return. And then, of course, Alexander Madison placed under the COVID protocols. So a lot of running backs here, Scott. That's always surprising to me. I like to keep the depth, most certainly. Guys like Jeff Wilson, Hilliard, Madison, even a Matt Breida there with Buffalo. So surprising that there's so many running backs on this list heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that too, but I think people are just pretty much shoring up their rosters and getting guys that they know they're going to be able to play in the next week or two. A little bit surprised about like Jeff Wilson or a Hasty. I mean, we still don't know if Mitchell's going to be able to give it a go, and even if he does give it a go, if he's going to be able to be in a full capacity. So Hilliard, yeah, definitely surprising, but that backfield there is so frustrating. You just don't know who is going to get the ball. But Chris, I was the guy who dropped Foster Moreau. I was pretty frustrated with that situation. You think he would have got some of them Waller targets, and we obviously seen they all went to Renfro. So yeah, Moreau, he gone. He ain't on my team anymore. He's toast. So, but I'm only in a few left here, Chris. I did get bounced out of a few. I got bounced out of my important league that I really was looking forward to. And you know what, Chris? You know what happens? it's the guy that I complained about all year that didn't pay attention in the waiver wire. I was giving him shit. He's in last place. I just need to beat the last place team to get in the playoffs. And the dude puts up a 150 burger on me. So, I guess they call it karma for me giving him crap all year. I'm sure he enjoyed that. So we'll go back to the KMA segment. So unfortunately, Chris, it was my boy Drunk Stewie who knocked me out.
Oh, no. You can't be losing to Drunk Stewie now. Come on, Scott.
I got it. It's almost as bad. I got to stand out on the side of Woodward here with a dress that says I suck at fantasy football because Drunk Stewie beat me. But you know what? His team. I'll tell you what. If I was playing his team, I'd have been 8-4 or 9-4. He's like 4-9 or something because he doesn't always pay attention as he should. But of course, Chris. Of course, that's the dude who knocked me out. So I'm gonna have to hear about it all damn weekend too.
Yeah, you are. I'm not going to let that one go either. That one, I expect more out of you here. We got to have a certain standard here around Woodward Bets, so we can't be losing to Drunk Stewie as much as we love him here for his betting segments on the show. And hopefully we have another one coming up either this weekend or next weekend, so stay tuned for that. But it happens. I mean, I'm half joking. There's some leagues just – whether it's injuries, COVID, guys underperforming, you're not going to make the playoffs in every league. The goal is to try to make it in most of them. So, Scott, let's get into our breakdown here of the slate. Now, we're going to focus on the main slate here. We obviously have Thursday Night Football, Kansas City, in the Chargers. We'll cover that one top to bottom tomorrow. So make sure you're coming back for that. Bets, DFS picks, captain picks. We'll get you all squared away for that game. Should be a fun one. And then, of course, Saturday, we got Raiders and Browns, Patriots and Colts on tap, and we will cover those games on our Saturday show. So we're not leaving those games out. We just want to focus on the Sunday main slate here. We will be covering those games. So, again, get up early, watch us Saturday morning to get all squared away on those two NFL games for Saturday. But let's get into the Sunday slate here, Scott. Let's start with the Giants and the Cowboys. Looks like Dallas up to 10.5-point favorites here across the board. Total sitting at 44.5 in this one. So Cowboys sounds like they're going to get Tony Pollard back, trending towards a return. The Giants, it's always a laundry list of injuries with these wide receivers. So to be determined there. But is this the spot where Dallas should dominate this game? Do they dominate enough to cover this big number on the road? I mean, 10.5 is a big number here against a divisional opponent. I know Dallas has been a superior team, but the Giants, that's a lot of points to get at home here.
It does seem a lot of points. The Cowboys 9-4. They've won their last two games. They're 5-2 in road games so far, which is pretty strong, as we know. The 4-9 Giants, they've lost their last two games. So I guess, Chris, them getting rid of Jason Garrett really didn't seem to be the problem there. They've just looked awful. But I think this is a really good spot here for Dallas. You got Dak Prescott. Here you got, these Dallas receivers with Cooper and Lamb. The Giants are 23rd against giving up points to quarterback, 25th against wide receivers, and 26th against running backs. So obviously they're in the bottom, third in the league in those categories. So I do like some Elliott here. We'll have to see, how healthy he is here. I know they're talking about bringing back Pollard as well. Not sure there if he is going to be back. They're saying there is a chance without him. Obviously Elliott would get all those carries, but he did score and had 110 yards in week 5 on 21 rushes against these same Giants. So, yeah, I really like Cooper and Lamb. I think these are some killer spots for these guys here. So I think this Cowboy passing attack, if they're going to have any chance in the playoffs, Chris, they got to be a little bit more balanced here. So I think they're going to try to get Dak and these receivers back in the groove here. So I expect a high scoring game with a lot of passes being thrown here by Dak.
Yeah, these receivers are all different levels too. You got CeeDee Lamb, then you got Cooper about 1,000 cheaper, then you got Gallup about 1,000 cheaper. So there's certain different ways that you can stack this team, double stack, which is what I always like. Sometimes though, it's too many options. Trying to narrow it down here, especially if Pollard is back as well. They love to utilize him in the passing game. As far as the Giants, Daniel Jones listed as questionable, but this guy's out seeing specialists. I don't think we're going to see him back this week or potentially for the rest of the season. We know COVID, an issue with the Giants, Kadarius Toney, John Ross, both on the COVID list. So we'll see how this thing shakes out. But as of now, I just think this is too many points, Scott. I know the Dallas is the better team. They probably win this game pretty easily. We saw them dominate that game in Washington, but 11.5 points in the NFL for a home team. It's going to make me step into that Giants trap as of now. So we'll see what it looks like as we get closer to Sunday. Next game, the aforementioned game of the year, Houston and Jacksonville here. This one, man, this is hard. 2-11 teams going at it here, but we'll see what we can find here. Looks like the spread 3.5 right now, most places. Jacksonville up to -4 on DraftKings and PointsBet. As far as the total goes, we are sitting at 39.5, as you'd expect, under 40 here. So it's got to find me something here. Trevor Lawrence has been terrible. I mean, we've seen some highly touted rookies struggle in their first year, no doubt. You know, Peyton Manning had interception issues, as did Andrew Luck. Trevor Lawrence, this guy, I don't think he's thrown like one touchdown over his last 5 or 6 games. I mean, it's been bad. So that drags down this whole offense. Houston side, I mentioned Royce Freeman as a cheap DFS option, but all in all, Scott, this one pretty nasty. Tough to find anything we like here.
I'll tell you what, I'm just thankful they didn't have this game on Thursday night, Chris. You know that's how the NFL do us, put something like this crap on an island game where we would have to watch it. But I mean, hey, this was a barn burner of a game in the first week here. I mean, they opened up a 37-21 win, the Texans did over the Jaguars. But since then, these two teams have been actually the bottom 2 teams for points scored, number 31 and 32, respectively. Over the last 2 weeks, the Jaguars have totaled 7 points, and the Texans have only scored 13, and both teams have been shut out in the last 2 weeks. So I expect just an absolute barn burner here, Chris. We're probably going to be up in the 80s. This over-under in this game should be 80. I don't know how they have it so low, but obviously I'm joking here. But, yeah, this game is just awful, Chris. I don't even know where to look. I mean, you mentioned Trevor Lawrence. He did throw for 332 and 3 scores in the season opener in Houston, but he also threw 3 picks. He hasn't done shit since then. So I am not a fan. He's only had 1 score in his last 6 games. In 4 of his last 6 games, he hasn't even produced 165 yards in the air. So I cannot play any of these receivers. I just don't see any upside at all. And the running backs here are interesting. I mean, maybe you could look at like a James Robinson if they're going to force feed him the ball. You know, maybe that's something you could look at. Houston is 27th against the run. You know, maybe you could look at something like that. I mean, maybe you could look at some of the defenses here. But, man, the Jags in Houston here, this game is just awful. And as I said, Chris, I'm just thankful it's not on a Thursday or a Sunday night.
So, yeah, Lawrence, I'm glad you brought that number up. 3 touchdowns on opening day. I mean, it looked like, okay, this guy's going to step into the league and be pretty dominant. 3 touchdown passes in that game. Like I said, 6 touchdowns the rest of the way. I mean, how is that even possible? I mean, this guy's only got 9 touchdown passes, and you knocked out a third of that on opening weekend. So just a disaster here. So 2 terrible teams, but 2 bad defenses, Scott. I do like the over here. I know this number is trending down, and this is going to be an ugly game, but I don't expect these defenses to come out here and slow anybody down either. So I'm liking the over on this number. As it continues to fall under 40, I would like to think these teams are good enough, and maybe this is the mistake I'm going to make, where they can score 20 points here. So that one, let's just get out of this game. That one's ugly. Tennessee at Pittsburgh up next here for us. We have Pittsburgh, actually Tennessee, the favorite here, surprisingly. Minus anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5. So this one's all over the board. This total sitting at 41.5. So another very low total here, Scott. I mean, if I would have told you Houston, Tennessee, or Houston, Jacksonville is the same total as Tennessee, Pittsburgh, that one's kind of head scratching. So maybe another over here in this one. What are we doing? Titans and Steelers.
Yeah, this one's interesting. I mean, the Steelers are still in they're 4-2-1 at home this year. And of course, 4-2-1, as we know, that one tie against the Lions. But I mean, this one's huge. It just should be a close game, big division game here. So obviously, some playoff implications. The Jaguars have been struggling here recently. Their offense just hasn't been too good here. But I mean, that defense of theirs has been really good. And Chris, if you look at this Tennessee team, they basically shut out Jacksonville. Then they go back. They end up giving up 36. Then they go back and they 13, then 23, then 16, and then 30. It seems like every other week, Chris, this defense is putting up a stellar performance. And then the next week, they give up 30. So just kind of looking here at this spot, I don't like to bet against the Steelers at home. I think the Steelers are one of the better home teams in the NFL, historically have been, especially on them island games. As we know, Tomlin is really good in them games. But I think the Steelers here, I like what you're saying. I think the Steelers here getting the points. I actually going to lean the Steelers at this point here. But, yeah, Tennessee, I think they're in a rough spot here. I think Pittsburgh's going to be waiting for them division game. And I think actually Tomlin's a better coach than what they got over there with Tennessee and Mr. Having a brain fart, Mr. Vrabel. So, but I like Pittsburgh in this spot.
Yeah, I'm Pittsburgh here as well. I was a little surprised that Tennessee was the favorite in this one. I know they're the better team record-wise, but Pittsburgh, I don't want to give up on the Steelers just yet. So to see this one, Tennessee -2, I'll gladly take Pittsburgh and the points. No major injuries to talk about right now in this one. All right, next game, Injury Central. We're going to talk to local team here, Scott, Arizona, coming to town to take on your Detroit Lions. Looks like the spread pretty wide across the board here. You got a 12.5 at FanDuel. There's some 13s out there, as high as 13.5 on DraftKings and BetMGM right now. Total 47.5 across the board. So laundry list of injuries here. DeAndre Hopkins questionable here. He's dealing with that leg injury. Going to go get a second opinion on that. So we'll wait in here on him. James Conner, who's been great, also questionable here, dealing with an ankle injury. We had Chase Edmonds activated off the COVID list, so we'll see if he's able to return. Detroit side, obviously, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, TJ Hawkinson, all questionable in this game. So this one, Scott, tough to get too much in the weeds with all the injuries, not knowing who's going to play here. But just overview of this one. Do the Lions have any chance here? Arizona, coming off that loss, are they going to come in here and take it out on this Detroit team? Is Detroit going to stay competitive here? Just the overall thoughts on this game with all these injuries going on.
Yeah, I think this one's interesting. I wouldn't run out and bet your rent money yet on the Lions here. I think they're going to have a pretty tough time. The only thing they have going for them, as we know, Arizona is on a short week after playing on Monday night. That was a game for them. In a normal situation, Chris, I'd say this is a great spot for the Lions to have an opponent coming in where it's a trap game. But I don't know if the Lions are quite ready. I think you mentioned Connor. If Connor's out, I think Chase Edmonds is going to be a great play. He's way cheaper than Connor, even though Connor, if he does get in there, has 7 touchdowns in a row, 7 games in a row, he's got a touchdown there. And I did hear Kingsbury say, Chris, that he thinks he gave the ball too many touches to Connor while Edmonds was out. So when he does come back, I think they're going to have a balanced attack. Even if they were in there, I think you're going to see some split carries. But I'll tell you, if Connor's not in there, just lock me up for Chase Edmonds. He'll probably be on all my fantasy teams this weekend on my DFS lineups.
Yeah, can't hate on that for sure. And I lean the Lions here as well, especially if they get any of these guys back. Hawkinson or if Swift or Williams is able to be in that lineup again. It's just too many points. As good as Arizona's been, and they could certainly come in here and roll the Lions. But right now, as it stands, like you said, I wouldn't go out and bet this game. But the lean for me is going to be Detroit if they get any of those pieces back. So let's move on. Jets in Miami up next. Another game littered with injuries, especially Miami's running back situation. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. BC brought up Duke Johnson, of all names, back in our lives. But Gaskin, Lindsey, Salvin Ahmad, all on the COVID list here for the Miami Dolphins. Jets side, Tevin Coleman questionable. It sounds like they're going to get Michael Carter back, so that could be a value play. Also have Austin Walter questionable. We mentioned Elijah Moore. placed on the IR list. Corey Davis also out. So you have those cheap Jets receivers here you can look at as well. So another game, Scott, tough to get too into it here. Miami is up to 9.5, 10-point favorites in some spots here, and the total sitting at 42.5. So as far as Miami goes, again, it's tough to say who's playing running back. Obviously, that person going to be in a good spot here. I think you can make a case for Tua and Waddle, and I love the Miami defense in DFS and as a season-long ad. If you have waiver wires, we talked about Miami yesterday. Going to bring it up here again today. They've been playing great. It's a good matchup here with the Jets. So as far as the Jets go, do you want to play the Crowder, Berrios, Keelan Cole lottery? You can certainly do that in DFS, but mostly Miami on this one for me, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Miami's won 5 in a row. Who would have thought after starting out just 1-7 that they'd rattle off 5 in a row? So the Dolphins are trying to get themselves back into playoff contention. I mean, if I've heard there's a good possibility that Gaskins is going to possibly play, but they're not really sure. Last time he ran for 89 yards, 23 carries, and a touchdown. So if Gaskins is in there, I really like some Gaskins. But I'll tell you, we don't have any running backs, Chris. I think Tua might be in a pretty good spot here. You got Tua, you could get Jalen Waddle, maybe Gesicki. I don't think that those are bad plays in DFS. I'm trying to decide if that really has any upside here, because I'm not sure if the Jets can keep up. But if there's anybody on the Jets, maybe, as you mentioned, maybe like a Berrios. Crowder was pretty chalky last week, didn't really do much. But getting Carter back maybe will help out this offense. But I do like what you're saying with the Miami D. I think that's a really good spot here for Miami. But I just don't think that the Jets are going to be able to keep up at all.
I agree. I like Miami with laying the points as well. If I can get it under 10, I think Miami dominates this game. Like you said, I don't know how the Jets are going to score points in this one, even with the potential return of Michael Carter. Is that going to be enough? You're missing your top 2 receivers. Zach Wilson has been a disaster, and you mentioned Miami playing some really good football right now. So I'm backing the Dolphins here in this one. Next game, we got Washington and Philadelphia up next. An NFC East battle here. Injury-wise, a lot here as well, Scott. Some big names as well. We'll start on the Philadelphia side. Jalen Hurts, questionable coming into this one. Trending towards playing is the latest report we got on him. We also have Miles Sanders questionable. They're hopeful he's able to return, so maybe not as optimistic on that one. Washington dealing with injuries as well. Terry McLaurin is in the concussion protocol. We'll see if he's able to return. Taylor Heineke also dealing with a knee injury, so they're waiting on some MRI results on him. I mean, we can continue to go down the list here. Guys like J.D. McKissick, questionable, Jordan Howard. So a lot of injuries in this one as well. But a big game here for Philadelphia and Washington, both very much still in the mix, even at 6-7 here. So who prevails here, Scott? This line has moved dramatically in favor of the Eagles here, opened up at 2.5. We're up to -7 across the board here, a total at 44.5.
I'll tell you, I mean, it's kind of odd, these two teams being division rivals. First meeting, they got to play each other again in a couple more weeks. But Washington on a 4-game win streak here, and then they end up getting beat there by Dallas. But I think the Eagles here, I mean, they're only 1-4 at home. But I think the Eagles here are a little bit more healthy, as you mentioned, with Washington dealing with all these injuries. They may get back McKissick, which will help out Gibson there. But man, Chris, I wish we had some Logan Thomas still. I wish we had some Logan Thomas still. I mean, Philadelphia is just dead last in the league against tight ends, and I just don't trust Ricky Seals-Jones to come in there and do anything. He had 1 catch for 8 yards last week. So, I mean, if we had any kind of better tight end there, I think that the tight end would be in a good spot here. And then you mentioned with McLaurin, if he's still in that concussion protocol, you're going to see some of them targets going to the Carters, to the DeAndre Carter, to the Anthony or Adam Humphreys, guys like that. So he's going to have to throw the ball around. I don't think they're just going to run with these 2 running backs, Gibson and McKissick, like I mentioned, if he does get in. But, Chris, I think McKissick could be really interesting if he does play, and especially with McLaurin being out. I think they may use McKissick more in a like slot role and probably move him around some formations to try to get their skill players the ball. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, I think Philadelphia though they're too tough for me to play. Jalen Hurts, he's terrible quarterback on the field, but he does put up fantasy numbers. He does have that rushing upside. But for me, I think I'm just going to stay away from these Philly guys. I mean, maybe you could look at a tight end like Goddard, but Washington is in the 11th and giving up points here. But yeah, I think these Washington receivers, especially if McLaurin's out, you might find some value there with Humphreys or Carter.
Yeah, I don't hate that. You can catch some cheap PPR points, especially on a DraftKings or in your season-long leagues. McKissick, never a bad guy to have on your bench, especially if they're going to play from behind, which is what we're expecting in this one. I really like the Eagles in this spot. They've played well enough where I think they can handle this Washington team. Washington at defense has been a mess. You lose Chase Young. Things are just kind of going downhill quickly for the football team. So I think the Eagles, the much better team on both sides of the ball, especially if Washington going to be without a guy like Terry McLaurin. So early on in the week, pretty strong lean towards the Eagles here. All right, next game, Carolina and Buffalo. Buffalo big favorites here in this one, as we'd expect. Mostly 10.5s out there, 111 total, anywhere from 43.5 up to 44.5. Not a ton of injuries here, Scott. Obviously, have to monitor Josh Allen. Limited in practice today, dealing with that toe injury. DJ Moore on the other side, dealing with a hamstring injury. Also day-to-day, and we mentioned Emmanuel Sanders likely out for this one. So feels like a good bounce-back spot here for the Buffalo Bills. They looked like they were going to get crushed at Tampa, end up mounting a comeback, had their chances to win that game. But they really need a win here. I know we talked about this on our Sunday show. I mean, they're starting to be on the borderline of potentially missing the playoffs here, really falling behind the New England Patriots as well, who they still have to play one more time in New England. So this is I hate to say a must-win game, Scott, but a huge game here for the Buffalo Bills this week.
This is a huge game for Buffalo. And Chris, they got a rematch with New England next week. And I can damn well assure you, if there's any team in the NFL, especially after that snow globe game and as much shit as they took for letting New England just run it down their throat as much, they are totally looking forward to it. That's why we've seen this line, Chris, drop from starting at -12. It's down to 10.5 at this point. But 72% of the money is coming in on Buffalo here. I just think this is like a spot here that's too good to be true. I think it's all set up here for a trap spot for Buffalo. I think that might be a little bit too many points here at that 10.5 spot. But then you look at Carolina and then you think, oh, they got Cam Newton. They're trying to run two quarterbacks out there. If they just say I'm starting PJ Walker, I think I'd feel a lot better about it. But with Cam, obviously McCaffrey's out. Chuba Hubbard came in last week. He did score a touchdown. But, yeah, I think this game here has trouble written all over it for Buffalo. We'll see how well they come out and how focused they are. I think they're looking ahead to New England. So we'll see what happens, but definitely a trap spot here for Buffalo.
I'm on the other side. I do think I see the concerns. I see the potential look ahead here, but it's a pretty good coaching staff there with Sean McDermott. I think these guys, as long as Josh Allen is obviously healthy and ready to go, and I think this line tells us he's going to play, I don't think there's any major concerns with that one. I do think Buffalo takes care of business here. The better play may even go to over on this one. I mean, 44.5, a pretty low number. We know Buffalo can score 30, 35 on their own. So, if you have concerns with Cam Newton, it makes it an easy Buffalo play. If you think Carolina can stay competitive rather than taking them, I think the play is probably to jump on the over here at just 43.5 at PointsBet, but 44.5 at most places. So that's my early lean here as an over on this one. Let's get to the 4 afternoon games we have, Scott. Cincinnati and Denver starting us out here. No major injuries in this one compared to some of the other ones we've had. This one doesn't look too bad. You just have Melvin Gordon questionable with a sprained thumb. So we'll keep an update, keep an eye on his status. But thoughts here, Denver just obviously dismantled your Lions, look good doing it. Cincinnati has not looked as good here over the last couple weeks. So what gives here? Denver always a tough place to play. We've had a ton of line movement in this game. Opened up Denver catching 3 points. Now they're up to as high as 2.5, even 3-point favorites at DraftKings. So I'm on the Denver side of this one, Scott. Just Cincinnati, it just something doesn't look right. It's not clicking like it was earlier in the year. I like the Broncos here in this one at home.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, this is a battle of the 7-6 teams over there in the AFC. There's actually 5 teams that are currently 7-6 that are going to be battling for 2 wild card spots. So this is a huge game for that scenario. So you don't want to go behind and have 3 or 4 teams that you're going to have to catch. But I like what you're saying here. I like Denver at home. We obviously know Denver. That's a tough place to play with the altitude. And both these teams have just been so inconsistent, actually. When I was looking at this game earlier, I was thinking, talk about 2 teams that are like Jekyll and Hyde. Well, one week they're really good. The next week they just stink. But, the Broncos' rush defense is really good, here. But I'm not sure if they faced anybody as good as Mixon yet. So I'm kind of interested to see if how well Mixon does here. But, as far as Denver goes, I mean, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, we see now Fangio's going to give the ball to Gordon. I mean, that is obvious, especially after last week. I don't think you're going to see both guys here have success as they did last week against the Lions here. Because you got Cincinnati. They're actually 22nd against the running back. All not that great, but they're not as bad as the Lions here. But it'll be interesting to see, as I mentioned, with Mixon. I'm not really a fan of the passing game here for Cincinnati in this spot here. We'll have to see what kind of weather we have, too, out there in Denver. Something I like to make sure I'm paying attention to in December. But, yeah, Chris, both these teams are just so hard to predict so far this year. It's like you think you got a beat on one of them, and then all of a sudden they fall on their face. So, but this is a very, very important game for both teams as far as possibly getting in that wild card spot.
Yeah, no doubt. The line movement, though, is pretty crazy to see it move 5.5 points towards Denver. So it tells me a lot of action coming in on the Broncos. This is one of those games you kind of scratch your head with both of these teams where they've looked good. Denver started out hot. Cincinnati, the same thing. And Denver's kind of been up, down. Cincy, it's kind of been trending down here over the last couple of weeks. So tough spot to go out to Denver to right the ship. Wouldn't surprise me if they go get a win, but as of now, leaning the Denver Broncos here at home. Next game, we have Atlanta traveling to San Francisco. The Niners, big favorites in this one. We got some 9s, some 9.5s even. Total mostly sitting around 46 for this one, Scott. I brought this one up yesterday. I like Atlanta with the points here. I mean, it's a team that you think has been bad, and they're right there in the mix with those 6 and 7 teams in the NFC. San Francisco has looked great over the last couple weeks, but they've had their spots as well. That game against Seattle, we expected them to kind of blow out the Seahawks, and they didn't. They looked good and go on the road and beat the aforementioned Bengals last week here. But all in all, I really like Atlanta with the points in this one. I could see an underplay here as well. No, not a ton of injuries. We'll wait and see on Elijah Mitchell, really the only name we're waiting on at this point in this game. So, Scott, Falcons, 49ers, what do you got?
I'll tell you what, Chris, if I told you that the Falcons, the 6 and 7 Falcons were 5 and 2 on the road, you'd probably be surprised. So, I mean, I was when I saw that. That is something that I did not expect to read here. But, the Falcons, I think I like what you're saying here. I do like the Falcons. The 49ers are holding on to that number 2 spot here in the NFC for that wild card. They really can't afford to lose here. But, man, you just look at what San Francisco has been dealing with last week. They went to Cincinnati. The week before they lost and went out to Seattle. Now they bounce back at home, and next week they have a pretty big game against the Tennessee Titans. So they need to get a victory here. And I'm not sure if San Francisco is going to be snoozing here, but they may get Elijah Mitchell back, as we kind of talked about earlier with the free agent. And then Deebo Samuel, like I said, he's been just an absolute stud so far. And they are actually, Atlanta is 28th against wide receivers. So I think Deebo Samuel and Ayuk are in a pretty good spot here. They're 15th against the tight ends here. So I think, you could see a spot here where these receivers are in a pretty good spot. But I just don't trust Garoppolo at all. I think Shanahan likes to run the ball. It's like you just don't feel as if the upside is there. And I'm not sure if Atlanta's going to be able to put up all kinds of points that's going to force San Francisco to have to play an up-tempo type game. But Patterson's very interesting as well. I mean, Patterson has been that whole offense for Atlanta so far. San Francisco is bottom third in the league against their running backs. So I think Patterson, I mean, how can you ignore him to have as great as a season as he did before this start? I don't think he's seen that coming. So, Chris, I don't mind him at all in this spot. But again, I mean, 5-2 on the road for the Falcons. They're only 6-7 with that. 5-2 on the road. You think they should be in a playoff position here? But obviously can't win at home. But I did find that to be surprising. So they're obviously comfortable getting away from Atlanta.
It's like the Cardinals as well. They were flashing stats the other night, how they're undefeated on the road, which maybe is a bad sign for your Lions here, but struggling at home. So same kind of story here, but it's just one of the reasons I like Atlanta in this game. Next game, Scott, my Packers traveling to Baltimore. The story here, obviously both quarterbacks questionable. Aaron Rodgers dealing with that toe injury. Sounds like it got worse. He's saying he's going to continue to play through it. So, you worry a little bit if it's going to zap any of his, he doesn't run as much as he used to, but is it going to zap any of his mobility? You also have Lamar Jackson on the other side listed as questionable. Now, no practice today for Lamar. This line has moved dramatically in favor of the Green Bay Packers, opened up at 2.5. They're all the way up to 5.5 at some places here in this one. So, Scott, I don't know if that's an indicator of no Lamar Jackson, but clearly that's a big domino that we need to know. If Lamar Jackson is in, I could see the spread sitting closer to 3.5 potentially. I do like an over on this one if Lamar Jackson is in there, but we got to wait and see what's going on with these quarterbacks.
Yeah, obviously. I think Aaron Rodgers would let his toe fall off before he has surgery, from what I'm hearing. But I mean, hey, if it's not his arm, I don't care. That boy can still zing the football all around. As you mentioned, he doesn't really run much. So seemed to be okay last week. So I'm not really all that concerned. And that Ravens defense has just been getting its butt kicked by injuries all year. They just lost Marlon Humphrey. So, I mean, they were bottom 10 against the pass before they lost their best corner, Chris. And now you got the Packers coming in town and Devontae Adams. I think they're in trouble here. I think Devontae Adams in a really good spot. And then I also do like Lazard here. So I think Lazard is another guy you could get on maybe like a low-owned in DFS formats. But, yeah, as I mentioned, with that loss of their best corner, I think Green Bay here is just going to be in a spot where they're just going to want to throw. Now, if Huntley plays for Baltimore here, I would have concern if they're going to be able to keep up pace. I think they're going to try to run the ball more. But I think if Jackson plays, I think the tempo might be a little bit quicker. And in that case, if Jackson plays, I think I like the over. But if he doesn't play, Chris, I think I may lean the under here because I think the Packers' defense is really good. And I don't think that Huntley has enough here to get these Ravens going. So all that is going to determine on if Jackson's in or not. But, man, I think Devontae Adams is in a smash spot here against these Ravens.
Yeah, he's always a guy I want some exposure to. So I agree. We'll have to wait and see. Lamar will make this a fun game, I'll say. If he's out, I think you're right. Probably more towards an under. Huntley looks solid, and I think he's certainly a viable fantasy option, more so 2-quarterback league, or if you're in one of them crazy 16-team leagues or something like that. I think he's viable just with his ability on the ground. He's almost a Lamar light, very, very, very good with his legs, but we'll keep an eye on that situation. So let's wrap it up. Last game here on the main slate, we got Seattle traveling to LA to take on the LA Rams, coming off that big win in Arizona here. With spread-wise, I lost my sheet here. Looks like Rams -5, -4.5. So this one's come down a lot, Scott. I mean, it started at 7, down to 4.5 here in favor of the Rams. This total mostly sitting 45.5 across the board. So not a ton of injuries. You brought up Odell Beckham on the COVID list, Darrell Henderson as well there. We'll see if he's able to return for the Rams. So those are the big names here in this one. But Scott, this line movement a little weird. I know Seattle been on a little bit of a roll. I mean, they just beat Houston. I'm not putting too much stock into that one. The Rams coming off a big win. Why this thing is moving in favor of Seattle, a little head scratching here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason it's moving is we saw the Rams. They just had a very critical road win. Obviously, they're coming off a short week playing on Monday night. So now here they got to face the Seattle team here, who appears to be getting a little bit better here. I mean, they've put up 56 points here in the last 2 weeks with Wilson back. I'm still kind of kicking myself last week for not playing Lockett, but I think he's in another good spot here as well. The Rams are 20th against the wide receivers so far. We're not sure if they're going to get back Ramsey or not. We'll have to see. I think he is trending toward playing, but I think this is a letdown possibility here for the Rams. So Seattle here, especially to start off this game here, Chris, I mean, the Rams may get them in the long run here and win this game. But I think this game here potentially has a chance to score some points. I think we've already seen the Rams are just going to throw the ball all over the place. Cooper Kupp is just having an amazing season so far this year. So, but what's interesting is if Higbee gets back in there, he's interesting this week. I do like some Higbee. Seattle's not been very good against the tight end. They're 30th actually in all of football, giving up tight end points. So I do like that. We'll see if Henderson gets back in there. I think that would be a decent spot for him as well. Seattle's 31st against the running back, so we'll have to see what happens there. But Chris, I think this is a spot here where Seattle could open up and make it tough here for the Rams at first. But as the game goes on, I think you probably see the Rams end up taking it. But yeah, I can see why some people are afraid of the Rams here in this spot, especially like I mentioned after that short week and it being a trap spot here.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams certainly one of those teams that can disappoint us when we think they're in a good spot. They can let us down. Seattle, a team you never know what you're going to get there. So I still lean the Rams here, but that line movement certainly a little bit confusing on this game. I certainly see your points, but I think the Rams clearly the better team and a tough schedule coming up here for the Rams. So they got to win every game they can, obviously. This looks like the easiest game they may have left on their schedule. So a big spot here for LA. So that will do it for our initial look here at Week 15. Again, COVID wreaking havoc. A lot of things are going to change. We will keep you updated here on the show each and every day with injuries, taking a look at things in the betting markets, see if any line movements are making us want to jump on anything earlier in the week. And, of course, Sunday morning, we'll come back and give you all of our favorite plays, DFS-wise, season-long, and, of course, our best bets in the NFL. But speaking of best bets, Scott, we can't let the people go here on Wednesday night without some winners. A little rough last night, so we're hoping to rebound here in the NBA. So I have a few ready to go. What do you got here? Give the people some winners here in our best bet segment Wednesday night.
Chris, I got two in the NBA. So the first one I'm going to roll with Denver minus the 4.5 against Minnesota. I think that's a pretty good spot for him. And my second pick is going to be the Utah Jazz at home. Given 9.5 to the Clippers here, I think that Utah is in a pretty good spot. They've been playing really well, especially at home. So I'm going to roll with Utah minus the 9.5, and I'm going to roll with Denver minus the 4.5. Two late games for you.
All right, I'll hit some of the early games, kind of balance it out. We don't want everybody waiting till late at night to get some bets in. So I love the late night hammers, but some of us are old, Scott. We don't want to wait up till 1 a.m. to see if we got some winners. So let's hit some of the early action and balance it out a little bit. I'm going to start with a total. I like the under 223 in the Atlanta-Orlando game. Atlanta likely wins this one pretty handily. I just don't see Orlando scoring a ton of points here. It's a big spread. I prefer to go the total in this one. So we'll start there, under 223 with the Orlando and Atlanta Hawks. I'm going to go Philadelphia minus the 7 here against Miami. We mentioned all the injuries. I mean, you're without Butler, Adebayo, Tyler Hero. I mean, Kyle Lowry is going to have to carry this offense. And I know he's a Philly guy, probably going to have a ton of people there watching him here in this game. But it feels like a spot Philadelphia should roll. So for this to be under 10, I'm taking advantage. In fact, I see a 6.5 out there if you want to jump on that at BetMGM. But Philadelphia minus the 7 here. And, Scott, I'm going to go with my Bucks. I know Giannis is missing here in this game. Obviously huge. Indiana coming to town here tonight. They are now 2-point favorites here. So I still think the Bucks are good enough, even without Giannis, to beat the Indiana Pacers. So I'm going to go money line on that one. It's a 2-pointer. We don't want the 2 points, so we'll leave those for somebody else. I'm going the Bucks on the money line for the win. So again, under 223, Orlando and Atlanta, -7 with the Philadelphia 76ers and the Milwaukee Bucks money line to beat the Indiana Pacers. So that will do it here for our Wednesday show. And we had a few technical difficulties there, but appreciate you guys sticking through with us here and getting you all the NFL knowledge here with our initial look at the slate. On tomorrow's show, we will break down Thursday Night Football, top to bottom, continue with our look at the injury report in the NFL, along with those spreads. We'll cover any NBA that is on the docket here as well. So, Scott, final thoughts for the people here Wednesday night. What do we got, buddy?
Yep, hoping we get us some lunch money. Actually, I need some beer money, Chris. I'm going down there to Miami. I hear them drinks are really expensive down there, so going to have to hit me a couple of these nice little parlays here so I can afford them drinks from what I'm understanding. But, I could probably pound back about 12 or 14 of them Modelo's. So, that'd be a pretty hefty bar tab. So, but next time I see you, Chris, the sand and the beach will be next to me. You and Beastie have a good show tomorrow. And I'll catch you guys on Friday from sunny Miami. So I'm sure I'll have maybe I'll try to get us some of these big guests out there. Maybe I can get some some of these big names in DFS, we'll get them on, maybe get them pop in our show. Maybe we get like a Big T or somebody like that to maybe hop in there and see what we can do. But should be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to heading down there and checking out all the festivities.
Sounds good. Safe travels to you. Beastie and I will be here tomorrow, and then we'll have Scott back from sunny Florida on Friday for that show. So enjoy it down there while we have a couple warm days here, and then it starts cooling off again. I hear snow potentially in the forecast for Saturday. So let's enjoy these nice few days that we got here. But we appreciate all you guys for tuning in. As always, make sure you're checking out all the other great shows on the network. I'm sure you guys are doing that as well. I'll be joining Braylon and Ryan Ermani tomorrow on the Bottom Line, 3:35, if you want to catch that segment. See if we can stay hot with our Thursday Night Football picks. But appreciate you guys checking us out as always. So do me a favor. Make sure you're following us at Woodward Bets. Follow the network at Woodward Sports. Most importantly, let's continue with our Stuff of Studio. Drop off a toy here at the studio to get involved with this. All of the proceeds, all of the toys going to the wonderful children over at Ma Children's Hospital. So a fantastic cause that we are happy to be a part of. Got a couple days left of that. So let's get these toys piled up where we can see them in the windows there of the studio, Scott. We want to literally stuff this studio. If you stop by, make sure you say hi to the guys over there, Braylon, Ryan, Joik, Darren McCarty, some big names over there that you guys have watched over the years involved with this as well, but excited to be on board here with this campaign. So that will do it for today. Again, thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow to break everything down on the Thursday slate. For Scott, for our boy Spencer behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Best of luck in your contest tonight. Best of luck with your bets. We'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.